being the only daughter of 2 immigrants, being the only girl of 6 siblings, and they're all boys. And as I tell my brothers, and they got a second up when I say it, I'm the prettiest one in the family. Right? That's what I tell them. You don't need oil. But I'm going to tell you, ever since Bethel's been on the ground in Texas and everything that he has done, I have been a big supporter of him. And I truly believe that this is a season for him to take Texas where it needs to be. That Texas knows he's got our back, and guess what? We got his back. I don't know about you, but being the only girl in my family, nobody messes with my brothers, and nobody messes with me. And so, ladies, las mujeres que están aquí, que son latinas, que son mexicanas, son mexicanas, que son tejanas, cuando alguien quiere hacernos algo a nosotros personalmente, ¿qué hacemos? Los unimos. Los ponemos unidos. So I'm going to tell you one thing, Greg Abbott, get the hell out of your hands off my body. I don't know about you guys, but I got a daughter, I got 3 granddaughters, and nobody's going to tell them what to do with their bodies. I have 6 brothers. Out of the 6 brothers that I have, 4 of them are educators. And I'm going to tell you something. If anybody needs help and needs protection, are our children and our educators. Because I'm trying to touch on stuff that's important to me because I want you to win that gold. I want you to win. Yes, it's so important. I cannot tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about holding a sign. It's about getting out there and making sure everybody knocks on doors, everybody picks up a phone, and everybody makes sure that you get them the hell to the cold places to go. Just like we sit at home to watch the Super Bowl, November the 8th is a Super Bowl day for Texas. It's a Super Bowl day. We gotta make sure that everybody in Texas says, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what you do, we gotta change this state. We gotta make sure that every one of us, men, women, children, have a voice. That we have somebody who's gonna have our back. And ladies and gentlemen, Beto O'Rourke is a guy. I believe that he is the one, and I'm going to do what I can for me, my family, across the state of Texas, my friends. Those of you that were at Morgan's event last night, I told everybody, don't forget to go tomorrow because Beto's going to be in Brownsville. I was in College Station Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, texting, calling, reminding people, don't forget to come, don't forget to come. And they're like, my God, Sylvia, calm down. I get very passionate. I'm on the ballot this November, but my campaign is important too because I want to win. But I also want to make sure that we have good Democrats representing our county, our area, our valley, our Hispanic families, our Mexicano families, everybody. And I'm gonna tell you, as a granddaughter of immigrants, everybody has a dream and everybody deserves to be here. Everybody deserves that. We don't need to be put in cages. We don't need to be behind closed doors. We need somebody who's gonna have our back, and that's gonna be Beto. Okay, let me introduce people that are here. We've got, oh my God, I forgot my glasses, but I'm gonna try them. Nubia, you know, when you get to be my age, you need glasses. Nubia Reyes with Planned Parenthood is in the house. Nubia, thank you for being here. I see Patricia Rea with, I'm trying to see ETAL. ATA, well it says ETAL, but that's ETAL. Monica Rodriguez, okay, let me give you a look for it. I gotta take slow on this. We have a very special lady who came all the way from where I used to live, where I grew up in Tulare County, California. Miss Monica Rodriguez, who's a councilwoman from California with her whole team that's been block walking for Beto. So Miss Monica Rodriguez, make sure. Okay, I have an Opie Villarreal, but there's no title. So Opie Villarreal, wherever you are, thank you for being here. I've got Kelly Meyer with News Nation. Kelly, thank you for being here. Denise Kelly with the Brownsville Herald. And George Darney with the Texas Public Radio. And Mr. Roy de los Santos, City Commissioner for Brownsville. Hey, dude, happy birthday! Happy birthday! I'm not doing it weird. I got a script. There's a lady over here that gave me a script. I got to follow the script. And yours truly, Sylvia Gonzalez, your cameraman and clerk. I got to pump this up, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you all know that October 24th is the first day of early voting, right? Everybody knows that? November the 4th is the last day for early votes. And November 8th is election day. We're gonna vote, right? Yeah! We're gonna vote, we're gonna make sure we're out there. Our next guest is on the ballot. We need to make sure that he is our voice in Congress, that he is with the people, and we want to make sure that we got everybody's back that's on that ticket, because we got some great candidates, and for the first time in a long time, we got a great opportunity to turn this darn state blue.
Get a todos los demócratas unidos, no nomás demócratas. We need to get our friends that are on the fence and our friends that are on the other side of the fence to come on the right side of the fence, to be our side of the fence. Let's not forget why we're Democrats. Some of you know me as a member of Congress, others know me as a practicing lawyer or in business here in South Texas. Thanks to a community like our community, I had an opportunity to go back to school through a GED and go to a community college like South Coast and university, pass that bar exam the very first time. And it was all done through opportunity that the Democratic Party and a strong family provides for you. And when people ask us every day, why are you a Democrat? My answer is very simple. The Democratic Party is the party of equality. It's the party of the people. It's the party that gave our senior citizens Social Security and Medicare. They gave equality to women. Equal pay for equal work. A 40-hour work week. Our voting rights. How many members do we have in the House? Raise your hand. Let's give all our members a big round of applause. Thank you for your service to our country. And the Democratic Party gave them the GI Bill. And continues to look after the PACT Act that just passed, and assuring that our veterans are taken care of, that our seniors are taken care of, that women are treated equally in our society. But folks, we've been talking a lot about the great things we've done and the great things we're going to do, but we can't get them done without each and every one of you to be engaged in this campaign like never before. This is the most important election in our lifetime. Things have changed. Things have changed here in South Texas. The Republican Party has come in here and bought elections with multi-millions of dollars of outside areas, not from here, not from our people, not from our culture, not from our values. This is outside money coming in here trying to buy your democracy away. And we're not going to let it happen this time around. We have work to do. I'm asking you not only to take yourself out to vote, take your friends and your families and extended friends and families, y los flojitos también, the ones that come out once every 3 or 4 times. It's important to get them out this time. We're going to elect Beto as our next governor of Texas. And we're going to elect every Democrat down the valley with all of our help. Thank you for being here. God bless you. God bless South Texas. Vicente con la gente. Thank you so much. And before I leave, I want to announce our very good friend and great Mayor of Brownsville, Texas, my good friend.
Ya se le ve el nombre.
Thank you, Congressman. Let's not forget to vote for Vicente. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Brownsville, Texas. And a big round of welcome to the people of Brownsville. This is our community, and this is your community as well. I can tell you, over the last year, Beth's come to visit us several times. How many times has Greg Abbott come to see us other than raising money? 0. What does that tell you? Greg Abbott has continued for years to stand against the people of Texas, to stand against the people of this community. And I'm excited because for the first time in 4 years, we have an opportunity to elect a governor that's going to stand up for the people of this community and for the people of Texas. Greg Abbott has shown over and over again that he's willing to put the interests and special interests over the people of this community specifically. When it came to COVID, hundreds of thousands of people died on his watch. Why? Because he chose special interests over the lives of the people in Texas and the people of this community. Let's not forget that. When it came to the freeze, the catastrophic freeze, when he couldn't keep the lights on in Texas, and the legislature had a chance to regulate electric prices and had a chance to fix the grid, Greg Abbott do? He stood with the gas lobby, he stood with the energy lobby, and he did nothing. And we're still in the same position that we were back then. And we're seeing utility rates in the city, we all hear about that. That's not the fault of anybody other than the governor of this state, because he refused to regulate gas companies, and now we're seeing astronomical prices in gas because the governor chose to take the money of the gas lobby and the special interests in the state, and we're all paying for it. Let's not forget that. When it came to choose the civil rights of this community, the civil rights of Texans, LGBT youth, trans youth, what did Greg Abbott do? He stood against that community, and he stood against the people of Texas once again. When it came to the time to choose women's rights, what did Greg Abbott do? He turned his back on the women of Texas. There better not be any woman in Texas that votes for Greg Abbott. Let's not forget that. This election is about standing up against the special interests. It's time to stand up for the people of Texas. It's about standing up for the women of Texas. It's about standing up for the and it's about what's best for Texas and protecting the community of this city and the rest of Texas. And I'm so happy that we have an opportunity to choose somebody that's going to stand up for the people of Texas. And it's time to vote for Beto O'Rourke for governor of the state of Texas. And Beto has fought several years for the people of Texas and the workers of this country and the civil rights of every person in this country for decades. And that is Dolores Huerta. Welcome.
To help the state of California, to help us become a more prosperous state. Well, you know what? It's time for California to come back to Texas, okay? So myself and the city councilwoman from Los Angeles, Monica Rodriguez. You got a whole team from Los Angeles to come here to the valley to go door knocking, okay? To remind people that register them all for love. So that's amazing. And all of these essential workers, the farm workers from Texas, from California, from everywhere, they deserve the respect of the nation, right? El reconocimiento. And everywhere, pretty much they are, except by who? The governor of Texas does not respect those essential workers, okay? He does not. So, you know, we want Texas to prosper. We want the people of Texas the kind of health coverage that we have in California, that everybody should have health coverage. This is how it went up. It's a shame that all of you, the people of Texas, have some of the worst health care in the nation. You do not deserve that. You do not deserve that. that does not respect those essential workers, those emigrantes. You have a governor here that does not respect children. We have a governor here in Texas that does not respect women. Okay? And I want to say to Governor Huerta, you know what? I want you to learn the words of the great President of Mexico, Benito Juárez. ¿Qué dijo Benito Juárez? El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respecting other people's rights is peace. I am the mother of 11 children. Okay? My daughter finally got likes dogs and cats instead. That is her choice. And this is what we have to say to the governor. Every woman, every family, deserves the right to decide how many children they want to have or not have. And the same goes to whom you love, who you live with, who you want to marry. That is so, Greg Abbott needs an education, no? But he also wants to take away from the education of the people in Texas the things that they should know. They want to decide what books we should read. They want to take some of the chapters out of the history books here in Texas, no? Que la gente sea ignorante. You know, like slave days, the people were not supposed to, it was a crime to learn how to read and write. Okay? That's what they want. They want the people to be divided with these cultural wars that they have. But we have to say to Greg Abbott, you know what? Ya basta! Right now you have a governor that likes to punish people, that likes to hurt people, no? Fascista, to torture and to punish people. But you don't need a governor like that. The people of Texas deserve better. And now we have a chance to get somebody que no va a castigar a la gente, that's not going to punish people, but a governor that is going to help people and protect people. And that person is Beto O'Rourke. You know, in Texas, they have laws that have made it very difficult for people to register to vote. In California, I had the good fortune to pass a law 50 years ago that anybody can register somebody else to vote, okay? If you're a citizen, you can register somebody else to vote. That totally changed California. And California went from red to blue. And who did that? La gente latina de California did that. So here, I just heard on the news the other day that for the first time, the Latinos in Texas are the biggest population in Texas. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Who is going to elect the next governor of Texas? But we know that we have a lot of work to do. Okay? It's wonderful we're all coming together and we can feel that energy and that love. But we have to take it to the street, okay? We have to take it to the street. So we have enough people here, not only to win in Brownsville, but also to go to the other parts of Texas that need help. And what we can do is by hitting the street. I a la calle, going door to door, you know, knocking on those doors, convincing people que no tengan miedo, you know. Que ahora es cuando, now is the time that we have to go out there and do the work. In addition to us that are here, we got to call your primos, your compadres. So we have to go out there and we have to organize them para que sean parte del movimiento de democracia, to make them part of our movement to set up democracy. We're not just talking about Texas, we're talking about the United States of America, because you are such an important part of the nation. So doesn't that make you feel good? You know what you can do to make history, to make history for Texas, to make history for the United States of America, to make history for the world. Okay? It's on your shoulders. No pressure. So, I'm going to ask you all a question and I don't know the answer. I'm going to ask you who's got the power. I want to say, we've got the power. I'm going to say, what kind of power? I want to say, people power. Are you ready? Yeah. Who's got the power? Who's got the power? I'm going to use that power. Now we have with us the next governor of Texas.
Thank you all for being with us and welcoming us back. Celebrating for texting and calling everybody who is here, twisting our arms, making sure that no matter where you were in the rest of the world, you were still connected to this community that you serve. To the amazing musicians, Las Cafeteras, who are providing the entertainment. Someone we didn't get to introduce earlier because he had another commitment, but left that to come here to be with us now. Your county judge, Eddie Trevino, right here. Thank you, Eddie, for being with us. I want to thank Vicente Gonzalez, who not only did I get a chance to serve with in Congress, and who never stopped working for this community, really for all of South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, but something that gets me more than almost anything else that he's done is this. He mentioned while he was up here, those veterans who wore the uniform of this country, who were willing to put their lives on the line, to risk losing their lives, to make sure that all of us can do better, to protect this very democracy that is under attack right now. Well, some of those veterans were born in Mexico, were born in other countries, came here in order to serve, to do better for themselves, but to do better for all of us. And some of those veterans, despite their service, have been deported to other countries, unable to live in the very country that they defended. Vicente wrote a bill to make sure that those veterans' service is honored and they are returned to the United States. And we're thankful for the work that he's doing. He's walking the talk. To our great mayor, Trey Mendez, who is not only working on issues like infrastructure, making sure that one of the least connected cities in America is one of the most wired towns going forward, a $20 million investment in broadband internet. But when I first came to meet him when he was mayor, he took me down to greet personally those migrants and asylum seekers who knew damn well that to return to their countries of origin, in El Salvador, Honduras, Honduras or Guatemala or now Venezuela might mean certain death for their children. They made this 2,000-mile journey because there was no other choice left to them. And instead of using them as political pawns, like Governor Abbott, he treated them as the human beings that they are. This man has a heart. He does the community proud. He does America proud. And how he treats those who come to this country. And Dolores Huerta. The last time I saw her, we were at an event together that Ellen helped to put on. And the event went a little bit later than we thought it was going to be. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I kept looking at my watch and said, man, I got to get some sleep, so I got to get up early in the morning, and I got to keep campaigning. She was at that event till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, jumped on a Greyhound bus to go to the United States Capitol to testify before members of Congress the next day. The bus broke down on the way to the Capitol. She and her assistant jumped in an Uber, made it to the testimony on time, and represented Congress in a way that makes us proud. Dolores Huerta, civil rights, voting rights, working rights champion. We are so grateful to have you with us. You make us so proud. Look at this. Despite, maybe because of all the challenges that we face in this state at this moment, you have chosen not to despair, not to submit to it, not to succumb to the indignity, but to show up, to stand up, and to be counted at this defining moment of truth. You know full well that we are in the fight of our lives, and we are literally fighting for the lives of our fellow Texans. And I got to tell you this right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to win this election on the night of November 8th. We are going to win. We are going to win. We are going to win because we are fighting for every woman to make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, her own health care. Every woman. We are going to win because we place the lives of our kids ahead of the interests of the NRA or the gun lobby or any politician in the state of Texas. We're going to win because we have the backs of our school teachers. We know how important the work is that they are doing right now in classrooms throughout Texas. We know that on average, they're underpaid by $15,000 a year against the national average. They're working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. And yet, despite that, out of their own pocket, when those kids go into the classroom, those decorations paid for by that classroom teacher, that kid who shows up Monday through Friday in the same dirty t-shirt, the same dirty pair of jeans, probably the same dirty pair of chones underneath, because his family does not have the resources to buy him a new set of clothes. Out of her own pocket over the weekend, she made sure that on Monday morning, he's in a brand new set of clothes so he can hold his head high, learn right alongside those other kids. That teacher, that counselor, that librarian said, listen, Beto, after 2 years of a pandemic, where this governor, instead of helping border communities like this one, was attacking border communities like this one, preventing the mayor, the county judge, the public health officials from literally saving the lives of these people. These kids, they've lost their grandparents. Their folks might have lost their jobs. They may have lost their homes. Right now, Beto, they tell me, I'm trying to keep this kid alive, so do me a favor. When you win, let's cancel the STAR test so that I can focus on those children and not have to worry about a high-stakes, high-pressure, standardized test. It does nothing to measure the potential of that kid or the effort expended on his behalf. And we're going to have some help. We're going to have some help in getting this done because we're going to appoint a classroom teacher as the next TEA commissioner in the state of Texas. And look, I mentioned Dolores Huerta in addition to being a civil rights hero and champion and a workers' rights hero and champion. She is a voting rights hero and champion. so many of the changes that she has led in California, across the country, were won ultimately at the ballot box. And that's why she fought so hard to make sure that all of us could freely and fairly choose those who would represent and serve us in positions of power. I'll tell you another reason that we're going to win. It's because we are fighting for this democracy and the right to vote in the state of Texas, a place where it is under more attack than it is anywhere else in America today. It is harder to cast a ballot or to register to vote in Texas than in any of the other 49 states in this union. But I tell you what, when we win this election, we're going to make sure that it's easy for every eligible Texan, and we don't care, no me importa, if they're Republicans or Democrats or independents, to vote. We're going to have online voter registration. We're going to have automatic voter registration. We're going to end the gerrymandering where people in power pick their voters instead of the other way around. And check this out. We are going to replace Confederate Heroes Day as a state holiday with Election Day as a state holiday in the state of Texas. So you can take the day off work and actually vote. And look, here is the other reason I know that we're going to win. We are running against the worst governor in America today, Greg Abbott. If we had to choose an incumbent to overcome, this would be the guy. And let me give it to you by the numbers. It's been 23 days since Greg Abbott's most extreme total abortion ban that begins at conception, with no exception for rape or incest, went into law. This happens in a state where he's been attacking a woman's ability to make her own decisions ever since he first took office, not only for closing the opportunity for a woman to access an abortion legally in this state, but as these reproductive health care clinics have closed down one after another, for many women, almost impossible to get a cervical cancer screening, to see a family planning provider, to visit with a doctor in the least insured state in the union. We are today at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis, 3 times as deadly for black women in the state of Texas. And for those of you concerned about the fact that he made no exception for the victims of rape, this is what he had to tell you. He's going to eliminate rape in the state of Texas. There are more rapes committed in the state of Texas than any other place in America today. The ability to bring a rapist to justice has declined by half on this guy's watch. And today, right now, there are 3,000 untested rape kits collecting dust at DPS headquarters in Austin, Texas. We must overcome this by beating this guy at the ballot box and restoring the protection for every woman to make sure that she's healthy, that she lives, that she has the rights that are protected in this Constitution, and we're going to do it. Let me give you another number that describes Greg Abbott, and that is 16. It has been more than 16 weeks since 19 children and their 2 teachers were taken from us, right in their classroom in Uvalde, Texas, not too far from where we are right now. More than 16 weeks. Those kids absolutely defenseless against a guy who was able to buy not 1, but 2 AR-15s and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Absolutely defenseless against a governor who will not do a thing to make it any less likely that your kids or mine will meet the same fate in their classrooms. A governor who could call a special session to go after trans kids, who could call a special session to go after critical race theory, who could call a special session to remove the right to vote from so many of our fellow Texans, could not be bothered over these last 16 weeks to call a special session and do the right thing by and for those families in Uvalde. When we win, we're bringing Republicans and Democrats alike together, and we're going to do the right thing. That means if you want to buy an AR-15, we're going to raise the age of purchase to at least 21. If you have a weapon and you are threatening to use it against yourself or against anyone else, or against these precious kids in those classrooms, we're going to have a red flag law so we can intervene before it is too late. And if you want to buy a gun in Texas, we're going to make sure that we have a universal background check so we can protect the public going forward. We're going to defend the Second Amendment and do a better job of protecting the lives of our fellow Texans. It has been 18 months since in the energy capital of the world, the most powerful man in the state could not keep the power running for the people that he's supposed to serve. Over not minutes or hours, but days, the heat stopped running, the lights would no longer work, the water stopped flowing because it was frozen in your pipes, in your home. More than 700 of our fellow Texans died in February of last year, froze to death in their homes through no fault of their own. And listen, this was not caused by God or by Mother Nature. Governor Abbott was warned repeatedly about the underlying vulnerabilities in our grid and did not a thing. And then when the power went out, he ordered the price of electricity to be pegged at its highest allowable rate. Gas soon started trading at 200 times what it had sold for the day before. Utilities went into bankruptcy. Others took billions of dollars on in debt. And to add insult to that injury, he still hasn't fixed the grid, and all of us are paying more in utility bills, $45 more per month on average per family right here in Brownsville, Texas today. Well, there's an answer to this. Number one, we fix the grid by winterizing it and weatherizing it. Two, we connect our grid, ERCOT, with the national grid so we can draw down power when we need to. Number three, while you were freezing in your home, his top campaign contributors made $11 billion in profit over 5 days. The largest transfer of wealth in Texas history. And not only is that immoral, it is illegal. So the third thing we're going to do is take those bastards to court and get our $11 billion back and return it to you. We're going to get this done. The last number I'm going to give you is the number 8. This guy has been in office for nearly 8 years so far. Over those 8 years, we have become the least insured state in America, a state where the #1 provider of mental health care services is the county jail system, where those with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and clinical depression who do not qualify for Medicaid because we have not expanded it in Texas literally asked to get arrested by the sheriff's deputies, to be taken to the one place where they get any amount of care at all, no matter how insufficient or inadequate. We have more kids dying of diabetes right here in the Rio Grande Valley and throughout Texas than in any other part of America today. And it's not because we lack for resources. This is the 9th largest economy on planet Earth. $2 trillion GDP, $250 billion biannual budget in Texas. It's just because we have failed in the leadership that we deserve. So here's how we change this. We win this election. We expand Medicaid and bring $10 billion back of our federal income taxes to this state. We invest in mental health care services. We connect people with doctors and providers and clinics and hospitals and medication. We also understand that we've got to grow and create more of our own. So if you're raised and born right here in Brownsville, Texas, and you want to be able to serve the people of this community, but you don't have the resources to get that education to become a nurse, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a doctor, I want to make sure that Texas foots the bill on the condition that you move back here to this community and serve those who have raised you in the first place. We'll fix what he wrote over these last 8 years. And let me address something that so many of you have told me about. That it is harder, more now than ever before, to be able to stay in your homes, on your ranch, on your farm, and to be able to pass that land, that property on to your kids. Property taxes in Texas, under Greg Abbott, have gone up $20 billion on his watch. Check this out. If you live in Texas, you are now paying higher taxes than if you live in California. You add to that the $45 increase in your utility bills. And remember when Greg Abbott shut down all United States-Mexico trade at our ports of entry? And the cost of our groceries went through the roof? Well, that pendejada cost us billions of dollars to the local economy, billions of dollars to the state of Texas. Greg Abbott is the single greatest driver of inflation in the state of Texas right now. We win this election, we bring down property taxes, we bring down utility bills, we bring down the cost of living in the state of Texas so you can afford it. Un tema más. Last issue that I want to raise, that this guy has totally failed us on over the last 8 years. And it's the thing that you're going to hear from him more than any other issue. Try asking him about the grid. Try asking him why teachers are leaving by the thousands from our school system. Try asking him why so many kids in this community are dying of diabetes. You know what he'll do? He won't answer the question. He'll try to scare you and distract you by talking about immigrants. Anything you bring up, watch out, those Mexicans, those Hondurans, those Venezolanos are coming over here to get us, to kill us, to rape us, to take from us. Let me tell you this. Those of us who live in El Paso understand the ultimate consequence of this rhetoric, his failed leadership, and the way he is trying to make us afraid of our fellow human beings. The day before that Walmart shooting in El Paso in 2019, Greg Abbott, your governor, sent out this message. He said, Texans, we must defend ourselves against these immigrants. Texans, we must take matters into our own hands. I'll tell you what, there was a guy in North Texas who was listening, who was able to buy an AK-47, was able to drive it 650 miles to El Paso, Texas, was able to post online before he walked into that Walmart that he had come to repel the invasion of Hispanics who had been warned were going to take over the state of Texas. He went into that Walmart the last Saturday before school started in El Paso in 2019, and in front of these kids, killed their grandparents and their parents, anyone who looked like an immigrant to him. This is the cost and the consequence and the danger of Greg Abbott being in office. And I'll tell you what, and you know this already, busing people to Chicago, to New York, to Washington, D.C. isn't going to solve anything. Building 1.5 miles of a border wall is not going to solve anything. Involuntarily activating 10,000 members of the Guard right here in Texas and spending $4 billion and solving absolutely nothing, that's not making this a better state. Here's what we believe, and I know this because like you, I grew up, I live on the border. Amy and I are raising our kids there. If you want to come to this country, we want you to follow the law. But on our side, we're going to make sure our laws reflect our values, our interests, our needs, the reality here on the ground. If you come to work, if you come to join family, if you come to seek asylum, we want there to be a safe, legal, orderly path for you to be able to do that, to come to this country, to do better for yourself, and to make us all better because you're here right now. You all with me on this? We should be able to lead on this issue like none other. And we're going to do it because you are going to make it happen. Now, Dolores Huerta mentioned being on the streets, knocking on the doors, meeting voters where they're at. I mentioned the attack on democracy and voting rights in the state of Texas. 750 polling place closures in this state, twice the number as the next closest state. Most of them concentrated in the fastest growing Black and brown neighborhoods. So when 90,000 people in Cameron County did not vote in the 2020 presidential election, it's not because they're lazy, it's not because they lack any love for this great democracy, it's because literally we have drawn them out. And the only way to bring them in is to be on their doors. We have a number of volunteers who are in yellow reflective vests. They're around the room here today. They have on their clipboards open assignments for block walking shifts right here in Cameron County. And I'll warn you, you know this already. It's hot out there. Knocking on doors, you're going to sweat through your shirt. through your jeans, through your socks, and through your shoes. But it is the only way to meet the voters who are going to decide the outcome of this election. It makes that cold beer at the end of the day taste that much better when you drink it. And wouldn't it be pretty profound and poetic if the very people targeted for suppression and intimidation are the margin of victory when we win this on election night, November 8th? You all with me on this? Well, I am with you in winning this by, for, and with you. Brownsville, thank you for coming out. We love being with you. Cynthia Cano's going to make sure that we take a few questions. We brought a second microphone, and as we do everywhere that we travel, we want to turn this microphone over to you. If you have a question, if you have an idea, if you have a suggestion, a way that we can better serve the people of this community, I am all ears. And you can be a Republican, a Democrat, you can be someone who's not yet able to vote. We want to hear from you. My best opportunity to effectively serve this community as governor is to show up, to listen, to learn from you. So Cynthia Cano, who's right here in the blue shirt, if you raise your hand, she'll bring that microphone over to you and we'll try to get as many voices into the conversation as we can. Ms. Cano.
Okay, we're going to go to our first question here, but I was told that we need to acknowledge Dr. Julieta Garcia. She's a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. Oh, there she is.
Right there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Awesome. Great. We got our first question.
Hi, Bethel. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kayla Trevino. I was born and raised in Los Fresnos, Texas. My father is an elected school board official. I'd like him to stand up and for everyone to clap for him because he donates so much of his time for our school district. And we are an A-rated school district in Los Fresnos, Texas. Thank you. So my question is, how are you going to equalize school funding? Los Fresnos, Texas, BISD, lots of border towns do not get the same amount of funding that richer school districts get. So how are we going to equalize school funding so that the kids in Austin and the kids in Brownsville and Los Fresnos have the same education? Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. I can tell you that the trustee at Los Fresnos is not doing it for the money because he doesn't get paid. He's not doing it for the fame or the glory. He probably gets more angry phone calls from parents and teachers and staff than he ever bargained on. And to make it even more difficult on him, the state's share of public education spending used to be 50%. 50% at the state level, 50% at the local property tax level. Now, because of Greg Abbott and his cronies, it is 60% on the local property taxpayer. That's why taxes have gone up so much on Greg Abbott's watch. And you're forced to make this decision, do I pay this teacher more, but then ask my constituents to pay more in taxes? These constituents who are having a hard time staying in their homes, or do I just hold the line? I want to make it easier on these trustees, better for those kids in the classroom, and I certainly want to support these teachers and pay them enough so they're just working one job. The way that we do this is by raising the share of state spending at least back to 50%, reduce the burden on you, actually drop your property taxes down while bringing more money into our classrooms and communities. That means we pay our teachers enough to just have that one job, focusing on that child and drawing forth her lifelong love of learning. It means that we fund arts and music programs and the kind of extracurricular activities that allow these kids to achieve their full potential. It means that we invest in the most important people among us, and that is our kids, literally the future of this state. So I just want you to know, and every educator in the room, I have got your back and I will fight for you. Thank you for what you're doing. Me agradezco. Me agradezco.
Straight back here by the cameras. And I'm going to ask the folks in the room, there's a lot of echo. If you could please keep your conversations down so we can hear up at the front, please. Thank you.
Cynthia was a former classroom teacher as well, as you can tell.
I just want to say thanks for coming, but I also really want to draw your attention to the issue that we call here the myth of affordability. And I'm speaking specifically about the myth of affordability for housing, and also energy cost burdens. So I think when you're elected, one of the things that we need you to do is really take a focused view about inequalities throughout the state of Texas. Oftentimes people look at the Valley and think, oh, it's so affordable compared to places like Austin and Houston and Dallas. But in reality, we have been disproportionately impacted by the increase in median home sales prices and the undersupply of new units. What does that mean? That means that even individuals who aren't trying to buy a house but are merely renting can't afford the average 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Cameron County at $776 a month. The individual needs to earn at least $13.40 to afford that apartment, and we know that individuals who are renting here, the median renter wage is a little over $9. So that's one issue. The second issue, which you have touched upon, is this idea of energy burden and also energy poverty. So when you're elected and you're in office, I hope that you will not just look to the ivory tower, to the places where we traditionally consider to be areas of innovation, but look to the places like the Valley, because we have quantitative data, also qualitative experience of having worked with low to moderate income households. And over the last 2 years, where we kept telling people to shelter in place, it's increasing. Difficult for low to moderate income households to shelter anywhere. So please don't forget us and come back and see us as a resource of information and ideas.
Thank you. Cynthia, will you get her contact information? So first thing I want to say is I want you on this team. I want you on this team now as part of the campaign. I want you on this team when we become governor. I want you to lead on these issues because you know them so well, so clearly. Extraordinary wealth and resources in this state who are experiencing homelessness right now. There are so many veterans who we mentioned at the top of these comments who served this country so nobly, did everything we asked them to do, who are sleeping on the side of the road, under a bridge, on a park bench tonight when we go home to our apartments and to our homes. Again, we do not lack for resources to be able to house folks who, once they have a roof over their head, are going to be able to better raise their kids, go to work, finish their education, reveal their genius, do amazing things that benefit all of us. So at the state level, I want to follow your lead and make sure that we're using resources like tax credit financing, partnering with local lending institutions, finding out where we have a lack of equity in housing. The home ownership rate for Anglo-Texans is many times greater than that for Black Texans and for Brown Texans in this state. Now, that doesn't just mean that there are too many people who are going without having a home in the state. It means that when you're building wealth and you're trying to pass it on to the next generation, when you need something to borrow against so you can start a small business, you are already at a disadvantage. So yes, let's get this right, but she also brought up some other good points. The minimum wage in Texas has been $7.25 an hour for the last 13 years. Imagine how much, you know how much prices have gone up since then, even just over this last year. So at a minimum, we've got to raise that wage to $15 an hour. That's the floor below which no one should be allowed to see in this state. But we got to do more. We got to invest in things like all-day universal pre-K, which is good for those kids and their ability to learn to read at 3 and 4, to socialize, to be taken care of. But it's great for their parents who are now freed to finish their education, to go to work, to start a small business. And then this one, and this is one where Dolores, more than any of us, has led the way in this country. We must have the right to organize in the state of Texas, to use the value of the labor that we provide in whatever institution we work with, to make sure that we get better working conditions, better pay, better safety for those employees and for the public at large. Unions help us to get that done, and I guarantee you, if this was a right to organize state, we would not have a minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. So we're going to make sure that labor has a voice and is taking the lead, which brings me to the second issue. The second issue was energy. Well, last year, the AFL-CIO, the working women and men of the state of Texas, wrote an energy jobs plan that's going to create more than 1 million high-wage, high skill, high value union jobs right here in the state of Texas, investing in things like hydrogen, wind, solar, geothermal, but also, to your point, retrofitting buildings like these so that they are more energy efficient. The bills are reduced. We return the savings to the homeowner, to the renter, to the consumer, and in the process, we are creating jobs right here in this community that cannot be exported anywhere else on the planet. We have led so much of the world in energy over the last century. Let's lead going forward by taking on smart ideas like those that you just raised. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to do 3 more questions.
My name is Alan Moorfield. I don't have a question. I think that everything you're doing is right and good and just for everybody. But I want to say that you win because you are doing the right thing by God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. And also, the Republican Party, in my opinion, are turning their backs on God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the faith. And they, they want us to live in fear. They want us to live by the gun and not by faith. And that's, that's destroying the whole world.
Thank you for being here. I mentioned being in Brownsville and being so struck by the mayor and how he treated and regarded his fellow human beings. And whatever tradition of faith, or if you're not in a tradition of faith, just your heart and your conscience, they compel us to be good and kind and to do right by and for one another. And we all understand, those of us who live in border communities, this doesn't make us less safe, it makes us more safe. Si queremos asegurar nuestras comunidades, necesitamos tratar cada persona con la dignidad y respeto que merecen como seres humanos aquí en nuestro país. When we're good to one another, good things happen. And we can lead the way on this. And so thank you for your comment. I'll tell you what, no people on the planet better exemplify this kindness and the things that make us proud to be Americans, to be Texans, than the people right here in Brownsville and along the border. I wish that more leaders, to the mayor's point, would actually come to this community, not to use it as a prop to scare people about the border or about the invasion of immigrants, but to see such a successful, strong, and yes, safe community. Safe, not despite the fact that it's a community of immigrants, safe because it is a community of immigrants, people who are good to one another. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Behind you. Here we go.
How's it going? My name is Robert. I'm an Iraq veteran, 3 tours.
Thank you, Robert.
I just want to know, when you get elected, what are you going to do for us veterans? Because the closest hospital we got to go is San Antonio. We would love to see a hospital down here. We got 2 clinics. I work at a clinic, one in Arlington, and they got good service because they helped me beat pancreatic cancer. What are we going to do for the veterans down here in the valley to get us a veterans hospital down here?
Thank you for serving the country and asking such an important question. Let me begin by saying this. Since 9/11, fewer than 1% of our fellow Americans have signed up voluntarily to enlist, to serve, to put their lives on the line, to be willing to give those lives for this country. Prior to that, we think about the Vietnam era. Those men and women who were sent off to fight a war that this country never fully understood, who came back to a land that didn't greet them with ticker tape parades or thank you for your service or allow me to buy this meal for you. At best, indifference. At worst, outright hatred from their fellow Americans. It took this country, listen to me here, 40 years, 4 decades, to treat a veteran's exposure to Agent Orange as a presumptive condition for the cancers that would kill him and those with whom he served. 40 years for this nation to do the right thing by those who try to do the right thing by all of us. What I have learned is that Vietnam-era generation is first in line to stand up for those who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, to make sure that the toxic burn pits that they were exposed to while they were serving us over there, when we were burning medical waste, human body parts, chemicals, God only knows what, They breathe that in over there. They're having a harder time breathing now that they're back home in Brownsville. We must spare no expense to make sure that we connect them with that health care. So instead of forcing someone to drive to San Antonio, to Audie Murphy, let us make sure that there's a full-service veterans hospital right here in the Rio Grande Valley to serve each and every single person who has served us. Let's make sure that we stand up a toxic burn pit registry in this state to connect every returning veteran with that care that they need. And last one, so many veterans have shared with me that when they go to the VA, the clinic in Harlingen, Audie Murphy in San Antonio, somewhere else, far too often they are prescribed an opioid connected to their traumatic brain injury, their post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever injury they sustained while serving our country. An opioid to which they may become addicted, and an addiction from which they may die. These veterans say there is something else that I can use that relieves my symptoms, increases my appetite, allows me to sleep at night, but to use it in the state of Texas, somehow I'm a criminal in the eyes of the law. So when we win, we are legalizing marijuana in the state of Texas. And we're going to expunge the arrest records for those who serve time for possession of this substance. We're going to do the right thing by those who serve.
Okay, I'm right behind you, Beto. And these are my last two questions. It's this woman and the lady right here in the black sitting down. Last two questions.
Thank you for being here.
Right, so this might be a little long, but bear with me. So just about a week ago, 68 acres of protected wildlife was burned to the ground by a static launch test from SpaceX. Housing costs have risen 26%, while the median income remains around 40,000. Since Elon Musk's tweet asking for outsiders to move to Brownsville for his proposed star base in 2020. It is clear to see the environmental damage from SpaceX and that the so-called economic development is not for Brownsville residents. Many have said I can't afford an apartment in Brownsville anymore, including me. I have to commute from Harlingen for my job in Brownsville because I can't afford an apartment here anymore. Your opponent, Delilah Barrios, running for governor for the Green Party, has openly called out Elon Musk, has stood with indigenous activists and protected against pipeline projects that have encroached on sacred land and has polluted water resources. As governor, are you willing to do the same? Are you willing to protect our planet, the sacred sites of the Carrizo Comacruza Pride, and the RGB community, and remove SpaceX from Boca Chica?
Thank you for being here. I'm so glad that you came. I'm so glad that you asked this question. I'm so glad that you raised these issues. It's hard for me to think of anything more important. And when I think about this, not just in terms of the next election, but the next generation and the generation after that, they're going to be looking back to us for what we did to protect the resources that were ours to pass on. And if we lose them for ourselves, we lose them for every generation that's going to follow. In fact, when I called the judge yesterday to ask Judge Trevino if he would come down and join us today, he said, Beto, I'm already committed to a cleanup at Boca Chica. I know how important this land is, these resources and our water are to the community. And no matter what economic development opportunity we have, no matter how high paying the jobs, we cannot sacrifice that for anything or for anyone. I am convinced that working with you and others in the community, there has got to be a way to make sure that we have necessary economic development, investment, higher paying jobs, more opportunities for people born in Brownsville to stay in Brownsville or move back to Brownsville without sacrificing our environment or failing to confront the challenge of climate before it's too late, or losing these resources that really define us more than anything else where we are. So you have my commitment, yes, to make sure that I work with you to do that, to appoint those to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality who are not the lapdogs of the industry, but the watchdogs of the environment, our land, and our water, and to work with the community, including, you mentioned, the indigenous community, people whose families first came here 15,000, 12,000, 10,000 years ago. Their voices must be heard. They must have a seat at the table. So you've got my commitment to work on this.
Okay, this is our last question. This is our last question. Oh, sorry, right here.
Hi, I have a few issues. This is Jenna. When I was 25 weeks pregnant with her, I found out she was going to be home with spina bifida. So I had the choice of either keeping or terminating the pregnancy, which I kept because that was my choice. And, you know, since she was born, I've had, especially when we're doing the pandemic, she was in 5th grade, and she was doing kindergarten, 1st grade work. And I know my daughter's smarter than that, so that was an issue I have with the special ed education. My other issue is she's 12 and she's got unbalanced hormones and unbalanced testosterone, so she had to get birth control. So I had to rush her to Fort Worth to find a doctor over there that would give her an implant for her birth control kit. I didn't want to put her on a pill or give her a shot because I didn't know if we were going to have that option for her later on in life. So what are your plans for what our rights as women and our kids with special needs? And then I'm worried about her being in school and if a shooter comes, how is she going to protect herself being in the condition she's at? And the other issue I have is that for the past, since they've reduced some of her Medicaid, I have to keep on finding her different suppliers and different suppliers so she can get her supplies that she needs. So, I mean, if you can help us with that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Jenna, thank you for being here. So glad that you came out. You're the reason that we're all doing this. You only get a vote and a voice in this election through everybody who is eligible to cast a ballot. And as Dolores Huerta just reminded us, this one is on us. And we know that your judgment will be upon us, that we're accountable to you, that we've got to come through. And so let me tell you what we can do. When we win this election together, we're going to address first special education. Not only are those educators so underpaid, Texas has artificially capped the number of children who qualify for special education in our schools. They've said there are only going to be this many kids who need special education, no matter what your real needs are within your family. We know that educators out there are at 1 educator to 20, 1 educator to 30, 1 educator to 40, or 50 in some classrooms. These kids need individualized attention and care. We've got to invest in it to make sure that we get it. Number 2. So my sister Erin O'Rourke was in special education classes throughout her academic career in El Paso. When she was 18 and finally graduated, my mom learned that the wait list to get state-supported services for a child with a disability in this state is 18 years long. 18 years that these families, these parents, these children, now adults, must wait to get any kind of care from a state that boasts a $2 trillion gross domestic product. Tell you what, Colorado used to have an 18-year wait time for state-supported services. After they began taxing the legalized sale of marijuana, they reduced that wait time to under a year. We bring in new revenues, we focus it on those who actually need the help. Not only does Jenna do better, but all of us do better because she's able to rise to her full potential, fulfill her promise, do better for herself, do better for all of us. And so those other things you mentioned, expanding Medicaid, bringing the $10 billion in a year, reversing this total abortion ban so that women and girls are no longer prevented from getting the health care that they need. We met young women who have prescriptions for their severe arthritis because the prescription for that drug might also incidentally be used for birth control. Pharmacists are no longer prescribing it. People who have the privilege to are traveling to California to get this. We got to make sure that we leave those healthcare decisions to you, to your daughter, to your doctor. This is a person's decision, a family's decision, as Dolores said earlier, and we are going to respect that. We're going to do better for everybody. We're going to do better for everybody because we are going to win this election together. You all with me? Let's vote. Let's vote up and down the ballot. Governor to every position in between. Let's make sure that we put people in power who are going to look after the real power in this state, and that is the people. Thank you all for coming out. Let's go.